On the first day of the high school, Komi, who everyone thinks is some hot shit, walks casually to the school. Meanwhile, Tadano, who is a good-for-nothing hopeless wimp, wishes to spend his high school years in peace, and to achieve that he greets the first person he comes across, who happens to be Komi. He gets shocked into oblivion by Komi's beauty, while Komi looks like she'd rather die than greet him back, and so she walks away. Tadano then goes to his class and takes his seat beside the one and only Komi herself. Komi instantly becomes the princess of the classroom, and Tadano's classmates look at him like he's dead meat due to his seat beside Komi. The class begins with everybody introducing themselves, and when Komi's turn comes, she walks to the front and scrawls her name on the board, giving Light Yagami a run for his game. The class celebrates her introduction, and Tadano introduces himself next, but as expected, everybody ignores him. Komi's eraser falls on the floor during the class, and Tadano almost gets sent to heaven when he bends down to pick it up. He puts it back on Komi's table, and when she notices it, she looks like she'd rather kill herself, but Tadano ignores her behavior this time. During lunchtime, everybody rushes at Komi and beat the shit out of Tadano in the process. He wakes up sometime later and finds Komi talking to herself like a nutcase. Komi says meow just when Tadano raises his head, and he pretends that he didn't hear anything. She runs away from him, and to stop her, Tadano asks her whether she is bad at talking with people. She starts to shake, and using his non-existent brain, Tadano finally figures out that Komi cannot communicate properly. On Tadano's suggestion, Komi uses the blackboard to chat with him, and she tells him that nobody could figure that she is bad at talking. Tadano tries to run away, but Komi stops him and shares that people must hate her since they always freak out when they talk to her. She shares her sob story that she always failed to eat lunch with her middle school classmates or talk with them, and then she apologizes to Tadano for wasting his time as if he had anything better to do. She begins walking away, and Tadano starts to talk to her using the blackboard. They continue to chat back and forth using the blackboard, and Komi shares that her third world dream is to have 100 friends. Tadano, being all into clap the cake, convinces her that he can be her first friend, and he tells her that he will help her in finding 99 more friends. The next day, Tadano greets Komi in the morning but gets seen zoned instead. He later lies to Komi that if she can speak out loud that she wants to become friends, she will make 99 more friends in no time. Komi tries to speak but gets frozen into a statue, and Tadano tells her that they can try again. Tadano approaches a group of girls to ask them to become friends with Komi, and one of them tells Tadano that he has less value than horseshit, and that he should always remember he is a scumbag. A few others tell him the same thing, and he realizes that he doesn't have any friends either, much like Komi herself. Not getting humbled anytime soon, he approaches his middle school friend Najimi, who seems to have magically turned into a girl. Najimi seems like the all-charmer socialite, which even impresses Komi, and Tadano asks Komi to repeat the line they practiced earlier. 4,000 years pass without Komi saying anything to Najimi, and Tadano takes over the situation by asking Najimi whether she can become friends with Komi. Najimi tells Tadano that it's not possible for her, causing Komi to freeze in shock. Seeing this, Tadano takes Najimi outside and asks her what her deal is, to which Najimi tells him that she once tried to talk to Komi a lot in 2nd grade, but Komi ignored her so severely that she was bedridden for a week. Tadano tells her to at least walk home with Komi after school, and Najimi pleads her case once again that she desperately tried many times to become friends with Komi, but she failed every time. Najimi asks Tadano whether he is into the chick, and Tadano confesses the truth that he is a good-for-nothing fool who is no match for Komi. Tadano manages to convince Najimi, and Najimi walks home with Komi after school, while Tadano stalks them just in case. Najimi tries to talk to Komi many times on the way, but she gets seen zoned or ignore zoned. Just then, two of Najimi's friends named Ma and she approach Najimi, and Ma tells Najimi that since she moved away without telling them, he has started realizing how important she was to her. He then goes all simp mode, confessing to Najimi that he likes her, and Najimi rejects him by reminding him that he himself is a guy. Ma declares to the world that he doesn't care, and throwing off his jacket he runs at Najimi to clap him. His keys fall down in the process, and Komi rushes at Ma to give his keys back to him. She tries to tell him about the keys and instead ends up saying she will kill him, which makes Ma shit his pants, and he runs off to save his life. Najimi realizes that she was wrong about Komi after all, and they walk back home together. The next day, Najimi asks Komi whether they can have lunch together, to which Komi reacts as if she'd rather dine with Satan instead. Najimi sits down beside her to eat lunch and invites Tadano to join in, but Tadano, sensing hostility from the other classmates, declines her. Najimi then starts yapping for an hour straight while Komi just stares at her blankly, and Tadano tells Najimi that Komi's dream is to make 100 friends. Najimi gets an idea on hearing this and she blackmails Komi to get her a special drink or else she won't be friends with her anymore. Komi walks out on hearing this and Najimi tells Tadano that she's doing it for Komi's benefit. Tadano does the only thing he knows how to do best and stalks Komi till she reaches the drink cafe. After a great deal of thinking, Komi walks inside the cafe, but soon walks outside like a zombie. She walks back inside and freezes when she has to give the order, so the barista guesses her drink and hands it to her. Despite knowing that it's not the right drink, Komi takes it back to Najimi, who tells Komi that she made a mistake. This makes Komi sad and both Tadano and Najimi apologize to her for teasing her. One of Tadano's classmates, Agari, notices that Komi is stalking her and glaring at her like she wants to butcher her. She starts to get tum-tum issues and rushes off to the bathroom to relax, but Komi follows her there and lurks outside her cubicle like a seasoned serial killer. She prays to every god out there to get rid of Komi, and soon Komi walks away while thinking that it's rude to prowl outside. When Agari leaves the bathroom, a class teacher asks her whether she can give a message to the class. Agari sees Komi lurking behind her back and to get away from her. She instantly agrees to the teacher's request even though she doesn't want to. She reaches the class and again sees Komi ominously coming after her, so she announces the message to the class and runs away with Godspeed. Meanwhile, Tadano recalls that Najimi had told him and Komi that he had gathered intel about all of their classmates, and that according to his information, Agari would be the perfect next friend for Komi. Komi narrates the whole story to Tadano through her notebook, and Agari approaches them to thank Komi. She tells Komi that thanks to her she was able to do things she normally wouldn't do. Tadano, the local knight in shining armor, asks Agari to become friends with Komi, to which Agari tells him that a beta like her would be better off becoming Komi's dog instead, and so Komi gets a new friend. Komi gets a new phone and tells Tadano that she wants to exchange numbers with her friend, and he tells her to try her luck with Najimi and Agari. She exchanges numbers with Najimi on a paper, and then tries her luck with Agari, who starts to weird her out as usual, so she gives up. She then approaches Tadano and Agari comes barging in, announcing that Najimi had told her Komi wanted Tadano's number first. Tadano exchanges numbers with her while flipping on the inside like a teenager. The class elections take place and Komi gets nominated to become the class president. Najimi convinces the class that a hot shit like Komi should get an even higher position, like the position of the god. The whole class gets behind this idea, and then they select Tadano as the class president since he can fill in the low position while Najimi becomes the vice president. Meanwhile, Komi accidentally ends up calling Tadano while playing around on her phone. She cuts the call in panic, but Tadano calls her back and asks whether she is okay. Surprisingly, she manages to talk to him and tells him that she is fine. The next day, Tadano notices that Komi wants to join in a game with her classmates, including Najimi, and so he suggests that they can play the game later. Najimi calls her out, asking her to join the game, and Tadano also follows her to support her. They both join the group, and in the first game, everybody lets Komi win the game. Najimi, the devil's spawn, proposes that the loser of the next game will have to make a kissy face, which excites the group since they want to see Komi's kissy face. They all make an effort to win the game, and the last try falls on Komi and Tadano. Tadano, realizing that Komi may lose the game, jumps in to save the day, and says something wrong, due to which he ends up losing. The group looks like they'd rather die than look at Tadano's kissy face, so they disperse away, and later Komi thanks Tadano and tells him that she had fun. The class's physical exams begin, and a nobody mid-girl named Makaru decides to beat Komi in the exams to feel like a hotshot herself. In the eyesight exam, Komi doesn't speak but rather points to the right answer, achieving a 1.5 score, while Makaru gets a 0.7 point and loses. Komi wins the height exam while Makaru gets more points in the weight and sitting weight exam. Makaru deludes herself that her weight and sitting exam must be considered attractive in some other country, and leaves the exam with her mid-head held high. Another mid-classmate called Yamai, who is also uselessly obsessed with Komi, walks behind her the next day and decides she will talk to Komi. She spots Komi's hair on the floor and even takes it to her mouth like a dog in heat. Just when she's about to greet Komi, Agari, the local dog, beats her to it by greeting Komi first, but soon Yamai scares her off by giving her a demon's look of doomsday. Najimi then greets Komi and Yamai both, and Yamai takes the chance to greet Komi as well. When Komi doesn't give a reply, Yamai celebrates being ignored like garbage. She then takes Najimi to a closet like a creep and threatens her to introduce her to Komi. Najimi introduces them both, which leads Yamai to park her bum on Tadano's seat and start yapping about her interests. Komi notices that Yamai is seated on Tadano's seat, so she turns her head away, and Yamai bursts open in happiness at being ignored again. Meanwhile, Tadano wakes up trapped in Yamai's room, which is filled with Komi's pictures as expected of a creep like her. Najimi asks to visit Yamai's room and tells Yamai that Komi may come too, which causes Yamai to agree without even thinking that Tadano is locked in her room. They all visit Yamai's house, where Yamai rushes inside her room and starts to take off all the pictures. She then warns Tadano she'll bury him in the mountains if he makes a noise and locks him inside her closet. Najimi and Komi are invited in and Tadano starts to bang the closet door like a seal. Just as Yamai steps outside the room, Najimi opens the door and finds Tadano trapped inside. Yamai enters the scene as well and starts to yap about how a beta like Tadano shouldn't be friends with Komi, while a hot chick like her should be buddies with Komi instead. Komi unties Tadano and before leaving tells Yamai through writing that she will decide her friends herself. The next day, Komi asks Tadano whether he can stay friends with her since he was pushed into danger because of her. She starts to worry a lot, being the tsundere she is, and Tadano tells her that he decides his friends himself too. He then gets embarrassed and Komi apologizes to her. She then tells her by speaking that she wants to keep being friends with him, and Tadano tells her that he feels the same. Najimi brings Yamai along, who apologizes to Tadano for treating him like garbage even though he deserved it. She also apologizes to Komi, who forgives her, and then they all tell Yamai about Komi's communication disorder. Yamai doesn't believe that a goddess like Komi can have difficulty in communicating, but then the group convinces her about the truth. Yamai also decides to become Komi's friend, which Komi accepts. Komi changes her uniform into the summer uniform, while Makaru decides to compete with Komi again in the physical fitness test and loses in every game, which is not a shock coming from a mid-character like her. Deciding to give it her best in the last game of 50 meters sprint, she runs like a horse, but Komi still defeats her effortlessly. She then accepts her defeat in front of Komi, but when Komi doesn't even shake her hand due to anxiety, Makaru declares herself as her rival, even though nobody cares at this point. Later, Najimi asks Komi whether she can come to her house, and even though Komi feels conflicted about it, she agrees. Najimi and Tadano visit Komi's house, where Komi's mother, who looks just like Komi, greets them. They visit Komi's room, where it gets awkward since nobody speaks much, and Komi's mother saves the day by bringing in tea. Najimi then lies that he has to go to the toilet and exits the room, leaving Komi and Tadano to do plot stuff, but they just sit together in silence. Najimi returns back in disappointment and then start to go through the room to find anything weird or embarrassing. She finds some books about communication and even finds Komi's childhood album. Both of them leave much later, and Najimi sends Komi a picture she took of the three of them, which makes Komi very happy, and she decides to frame the picture. Komi tells her lackeys Tadano and Najimi that she wants to go to a ramen restaurant, and Agari, who claims to be a ramen expert, joins in on their plan. They visit a restaurant based on Agari's recommendation, where Agari gives an order like a pro-fatso foodie. The owner asks Komi about her order and somehow guesses what she wants to eat on his own. They all get served their gigantic ramen bowls, which Agari gulps down under a second. Komi eats the whole bowl gracefully, while Najimi and Tadano get sick after eating so much ramen. Later, Komi asks them whether they can visit again, and the rest of the gang agrees. Another weird classmate named Nakanaka approaches Komi and asks her to make a blood pact with her, or else the earth will perish due to the dragon force. She runs away when Komi asks her what a dragon force is, and Tadano comments that maybe Nakanaka wanted to become friends with Komi. Najimi remarks that Nakanaka reminded her of the middle school Tadano. In the past, Tadano, who's also a dedicated anime fan, acts like a big shot, and with Najimi's help he confesses to his school crush, but as expected she rejects him and calls him a show-off. Tadano then changes his appearance and style due to the rejection, becoming the current Tadano. Najimi narrates Tadano's whole story to Komi, making Tadano cringe and pass away. In the gym class, everybody rushes to Komi to pair up with her, while nobody pairs up with Nakanaka, so she feels alone. Komi teams up with her and they both do exercises together, after which Nakanaka tells Komi that due to the blood pact, she has become her slave now. She gets embarrassed by Komi's carefree expression and runs away. Komi tries to joke with Tadano through writing, but Tadano doesn't find them funny. He explains that the joke should be made based on the situation, so Komi rushes out of the classroom and calls him. She makes a lame joke through a call, which Tadano still doesn't find funny. Najimi, arriving on the scene, asks Tadano to make a joke too, and Tadano proceeds to make an equally lame joke. Later, Najimi hears that Komi has never gone shopping by herself, so she asks Komi to go shopping with her, and even invites Tadano and Agari. When they reach the mall, the world-famous stalker Yami joins them as well, and Komi tells them that her mother has always chosen the clothes for her. Najimi suggests that they should all make Komi wear an outfit of their choice, and the outfit with the most points will win the game. Komi wears a Chinese outfit on Najimi's suggestion, and then wears a skimpy outfit based on Yami's suggestion, who gets disqualified for being a third-class freak. Agari then makes her wear a cute schoolboy type outfit, which is followed by Tadano's choice of outfit, which is a frock. Everybody loves Tadano's choice, which Komi ends up buying as well. Later, Komi decides to go to a salon to get her bangs cut short, and a new salon worker called Arai spots her outside the salon. Arai welcomes Komi in, but Komi just gives her the death stare. Komi then goes inside when Arai's senior Karisu calls her inside, making Arai doubt her work skills. Karisu cuts Komi's hair and even talks to her without Komi uttering a word, which surprises Arai. Karisu then asks Arai to shampoo Komi's hair, and Arai starts to talk uselessly to Komi, but Komi doesn't reply to her, making Arai doubt her worthless existence. Arai then shampoos Komi's hair while thinking about what she did wrong. Later, Komi thanks Arai for her service by pointing to a magazine, and Arai asks Komi to come back for the next time. In school, only Tadano, who still wants to get the chick, notices Komi's new haircut, which makes Komi blush. At nighttime, Komi recalls all the conversations that took place with her friends during the day and struggles to fall asleep. She keeps thinking that she could have been less awkward or more funny while conversing with Agari. She remembers talking with Tadano and then falls asleep. In school, Najimi whines pathetically about having exams the next week and suggests that they should all study in a group. They go to the library, where Najimi instantly makes some noise and the librarian called Gorami hits her with a fan. Agari explains to them that they will be kicked out if they get hit 3 times. They start to study, but soon Najimi finds a funny manga and she gets hit again when she makes a noise. Najimi, never the one to give up, takes out Jenga, and Komi instantly joins her to play the game. Tadano, sensing that Komi is enjoying the game, also joins in the game, but he makes the Jenga blocks falls, due to which Gorami hits Najimi for the 3rd time and carries her outside like a princess. Later, all of them, including Najimi, get good marks, while Komi scores the highest marks and Tadano praises her. The summer vacations begin, and Komi, who doesn't go out for a week, finishes her homework. She thinks of calling Tadano but gets nervous and stops herself. Meanwhile, Tadano thinks to himself that Komi must want to communicate with them, so he should call her, but he gets nervous too. Najimi calls Tadano and then calls Komi to invite her to the pool the next day, which Komi accepts. The next day, Komi checks her stuff again and again in case she missed something, and then reaches the meeting point 30 minutes in advance. Najimi and Tadano join her, and Tadano, the all-biggest simp, tells her that the frock he chose for her previously suits her. Agari meets them on the way, and soon they get joined by Yami and her group, even though they weren't invited. On arriving at the pool, Yami, who cannot seem to calm her thirst, notices that Komi is about to wear a school swimsuit, so she drags Komi away to buy a new swimsuit. All the girls then make their appearance in bikinis as if it's a Victoria's Secret show, and the boys almost piss themselves when they see Komi in her suit. They go the water slide next, where Najimi pairs up with the group's fatso Agari to use her as a cushion. Tadano joins Komi, and they both ride down the slide with Komi's hair flying on Tadano's face, making all his dreams come true. They all go to the pool next, where Najimi and Agari push Komi around like a queen in waiting, and then they proceed to play a game to see who can hold their breaths under the water the longest. The gang watches creepily as Komi struggles to maintain her breath, and Komi wins in the end. She then runs after Najimi to play diving board, but she trips and falls to the ground. Tadano rushes after her but almost gets knocked to heaven by Yami, who also rushes at Komi to help her. Komi gets a slight knee injury, and Najimi suggests to go home to rest, but Komi insists that they should stay and have fun. Najimi drags Tadano and Yami away and tells them they should keep playing in the pool so that Komi doesn't feel bad about ruining their day. Meanwhile, Komi rests beside the pool, and soon Tadano joins her. He tells her all of her friends are good people who would never hate a hot chick like her, and she writes that she hates herself for making them worry. He then takes her hand and pulls her to the pool. Najimi arrives at the scene and hands them all water guns so that Komi can join in the game as well. They all have fun playing with water like 2-year-olds, and afterwards they head home. Later, Komi decides to go to the library, and her dad, who also has communication problems like Komi, accompanies her. They go to a shaved ice shop first, and after giving their orders they sit in silence. Komi's dad wants to ask her about high school, but like Komi, he gets nervous and doesn't say anything. Their shaved ice arrives and both of them eat it in silence. Komi gets a brain freeze, so her dad gives her hot tea, and when he gets a brain freeze, Komi gives him tea as well, which makes him happy. He takes her to the library, where soon enough Komi finds a book that she likes. She feels nervous to go to the counter, so she sits down to relax, and a kid starts to cry beside her. Komi gives him a doomsday death stare, which makes the kid fear for his life. Komi then gives the kid a small smile, which makes him happy, and soon she waves him goodbye. Meanwhile, Tadano, who had come to the library to return his mother's book, witnesses this scene and returns home in happiness. Komi finds a park on the way back and has fun playing in the park by herself. She then drinks water at the end, and Tadano, who is going back to the library to return the book, witnesses Komi drinking water like a divine goddess and then returns home again in happiness. Komi goes to visit her grandparents with her family, and her mom, the certified yapper of the family, talks throughout the way. They visit the ancestors' graves first, where they make prayers, and then they arrive at their grandparents' home. Komi's mother barges in the house and greets Komi's grandmother, aunt and uncle. Komi's aunt tells her to get along with Komi's cousin Akira. Komi appears behind Akira, who seems to shy away from her, so she tickles her and eventually they both get closer together. Komi and Akira play a game together, and then Komi goes to her grandmother. Komi's grandmother asks her about high school, and then asks whether a hopeless girl like Komi has made any friends, to which Komi nods in reply. Komi then lays her head on her grandmother's lap, who tells her that she is happy for Komi. She then asks Komi whether she has a guy that she likes, and even checks her phone asking her who Tadano is. On Najimi's invitation, Tadano goes to a summer festival wearing a yukata, and Komi joins him there. Never missing a chance to clap that cake, he tells her that she looks good in the yukata, and soon they get joined by Najimi and his army of 1,000 friends. Komi hesitates to go due to a lack of a notebook, and Tadano assures her that he will help her in communicating. They go to a shooting stand where Tadano gives a mid-performance and then asks Komi to step in. Makaru, the local nobody, appears out of nowhere and competes with Komi, but as always she loses while Komi wins all the rounds. They play katanuki with Najimi, which involves cutting a shape in candy, and Najimi keeps losing like a seasoned gambler. He goes away to get food, and Komi somehow manages to tell Tadano that he looks good in his yukata. Tadano realizes that Komi was struggling to say this since a while ago, and he almost flies to the moon with embarrassment. Yamai arrives at the festival with her group and faints when she sees Komi in the yukata. They play the 1,000 lottery strings game next, in which there's a big reward at the end of one string. Najimi and Tadano lose instantly, and the stall owner thinks to herself that nobody can surpass her techniques. Just then, Komi pulls the right string and wins the game. Komi gets separated from the group, but when she starts to panic, Tadano, the hero in white armor, appears beside her. While they wait for Najimi, Tadano tells her that they had fun in the festival, and the naughty Komi writes down that she had fun with Tadano when they were alone too. However, she removes the message before Tadano can read it. Komi visits Tadano's house along with Najimi and Yamai, who seems to have stalked her way inside. Tadano's sister Hitomi greets them and later asks Tadano how a loser like him managed to pull Komi in. They do their homework together and discuss the fun summer vacation they had. Komi tears up on hearing this and tells the group that it's the first time she doesn't want the vacations to end. The summer vacations end, and in school, everybody gathers around to admire Komi like a religious cult. Another one of Komi's classmates, who is a country bumpkin called Nakoko, worries that her past as a country girl may get revealed to the class. She worships Komi, which is the usual norm, and sees that Komi is going to Subway to buy food on Najimi's request. She decides to follow her to become more like her, and Tadano as usual also follow Komi. Komi enters the restaurant but soon leaves to take a breather, and Nakoko finds this nonchalant behavior very cool. Komi enters the restaurant again, and the cashier throws dozen questions at her regarding the order, but Komi stays silent. The cashier then makes the order by her own choice, which inspires a nobody like Nanoka, who thinks Komi's style of ordering without saying a word is just out of this world. Komi then gives Najimi the wrong order, and Najimi apologizes on her knees for making Komi so nervous. Komi visits Nakanaka's house and sees that her room is filled with weeb stuff. Nakanaka starts to play a game to entertain Komi, but Komi doesn't understand anything, so Nakanaka calls Najimi over so that Komi doesn't find her boring and leaves her. Najimi and Tadano arrive at Nakanaka's house and they all play a 4-players game together. While Najimi and Nakanaka fight to defeat each other like little girls, Tadano teaches Komi how to play the game. One of Komi's moves makes Najimi lose, and Nakanaka, who probably has had a very sad childhood, becomes very happy after winning. Najimi later calls Komi over to her part-time job and asks her to fill in the place of her co-worker. She explains they both have to distribute tissue papers to the public, which seems like a sus enough job, and then rushes off to do her job. Komi struggles to give tissues to anyone and even makes herself determined to hand over the tissues, but no one notices her. A lady desperately in need of tissues notices Komi but hesitates to approach her, and Komi gives her a tissue. Soon Komi starts to effortlessly distribute the tissues to everyone and finishes her job in no time. Komi has a dream in which everybody she knows has a grain stuck to their face, but she cannot figure out what it is, and then she wakes up in nervousness. The next day Komi notices that Tadano yaps a lot with Najimi and calls her by her name, so she asks Tadano to call her by her first name, Shouko too. Tadano practically shits his pants on this request and tells Komi that he can't do it, but Najimi, the devil's own child, insists that Tadano should do it and even calls Komi by her first name to tease them both. Tadano tries to say it, but he gets too embarrassed and stops. Najimi then asks Komi to call Tadano by his first name, Hitohito, and she struggles to say his name as if she already doesn't struggle to communicate. She then gets embarrassed and tells Tadano that they are better off calling each other by their usual names. The sports festival begins, and a senior called Natsuno tells Komi to not hold her class back in the games. In the first game of gymnastics, the vice principal notices that Natsuno seems to have a great ability, and she is about to give points to Natsuno's class, but then she notices Komi stretching and gives her all the points for being cute. In the tug-of-war game, Komi's classmates start to lose strength in Komi's divine presence, and so they lose the game. In the obstacle relay game, Agari, managing her talents, effortlessly passes the game to Nakanaka, who then hesitates to put her face and starts to look for candy as it would make her look uncool. Nakanaka sees Komi standing in the side, and with newly found courage she thrusts her face in starch. She then runs forward to pass the game to Tadano, and everybody cheers for Tadano to win the game. Tadano struggles to hold the bat as a part of his race, but then he sees Komi telling him to do his best, and he runs at the finish line with Godspeed, coming third in the race. Suddenly there's a rainfall, during which Komi's mother arrives to cheer Komi. Everybody gets all excited to see Komi's mother, and she tells Komi that her classmates seem like nice people. She then leaves and the rest of the games begin. Soon the last game of class relay arrives, and the race begins with Makaru starting the race. She passes the baton to Komi, who races along Natsuno, but just then, Komi's ankle twists, and she falls on the ground. Her classmates cheer at her to do her best, so with newly found strength she gets up and races towards the end. She tries her best and comes second while Natsuno comes first. Komi's classmates rush at her like madmen to ask her whether she is okay, and she gets nervous on receiving so much attention. The festival ends and Komi's class gets second position for putting in so much effort. Tadano gets overloaded with class president work, and a classmate called One Mind starts to help him. She tells Najimi to do her work, and when Komi asks if she can help Tadano, she tells Komi that she and Tadano can do all the work. One Mind and Tadano carry the paperwork while Komi stalks them. One Mind asks Tadano whether he is a masochist, which shouldn't even be doubtful at this point. She explains that he seems to stay in Komi's company a lot, where Komi keeps glaring at him, and Tadano replies that Komi isn't overwhelming, rather One Mind should try talking to her. They spot Komi lurking around the corner, and One Mind attempts to talk to her, but Komi runs away. The next day, One Mind offers to help Tadano in his work again, and Tadano bids Komi goodbye. Komi gathers all her non-existent courage and tells Tadano that she wants to help him too. Tadano tells her that she's a lifesaver and starts to explain the papers to her. One Mind notices Komi's behavior, and making an excuse she dashes away from the room, leaving the two of them behind. The next day, Komi apologizes to One Mind for running away previously, and One Mind whispers to her that she is rooting for her and Tadano, which causes Komi to run away with speed of light. Komi tells Tadano that she's interested in photo booths, and Najimi suggests going to the arcade to take some photos. Yamai, who nobody invited, also joins them, and they all have fun taking pictures in the photo booth. On the way out, Tadano notices that Komi keeps looking a keychain, so being the simp that he is, he goes to the arcade in secret and gets the keychain for Komi. He gives it to Komi, but Komi also takes out another keychain just like it and tells Tadano that she went with Najimi to get it. On Komi's suggestion, they both exchange the keychains. The whole class fights over what to do in the upcoming cultural festival, and everyone makes separate suggestions based on Komi's looks or how they want to see Komi, since the world practically revolves around Komi now. Tadano asks Komi what she has voted for, and when she says she'd like to have a maid cafe, the whole class instantly decides on the maid cafe. The preparations for the maid cafe begin and Komi wants to help around, but her classmates get her seated on a goddess chair and tell her not to do anything. A classmate tells the committee festival chief called Atori that the cafe needs more material, and Atori asks Komi to come with her to go shopping. One Mind joins them both and they all head to the home center to shop for materials. One Mind takes Komi and Atori, who seems like a useless lost head, with her for material selection, but Atori gets lost suddenly, so One Mind and Komi split up to search for her. Komi finds Atori wandering around like a dumb klutz and stops her from going further. She asks Atori why she invited her, and Atori tells her that after seeing her around with Tadano, she wanted to become friends with Komi too. Komi tells her that she was really happy on being invited since she always felt like a useless mute during festivals before. Atori tells One Mind later on that she became friends with Komi and even suggests inviting Komi out again, to which Komi replies by saying yes. Najimi asks Tadano and Komi to distribute cultural festival flyers to people and even gives a demo to the gang. Komi goes to a random shop first and comes out after eating, but without giving them the flyer. She then goes to Karisu's shop and to the ramen shop, where both the owners receive the flyer without Komi having to say a single word. For Najimi's last flyer, she randomly rings a house bell and the lady with the kid from the library opens the door. Her whiner baby starts to cry again and Komi smiles at him, which makes him stop. The night before the cultural festival, Komi and the other girls make onigiri for the boys, and the boys discuss on how to get Komi's handmade onigiri since they can't clap that cake. They play a game and choose onigiris to eat at random, while Tadano gets a cube-shaped onigiri. He thinks Najimi has made his onigiri and finds it really tasty, which makes Komi happy since she was the one who made his onigiri. The festival starts and a self-proclaimed waste of space maid expert called Akito enters the maid cafe. Najimi greets him, and as he parks his bum he finds the cafe interesting. Soon Komi approaches Akito and puts down the glass nervously at his table, but Akito assumes that Komi is angry at him for leering at the maids for too long. Feeling dejected, he leaves the cafe afterwards, and Komi again tries to bid him farewell, but she fails. Najimi convinces Tadano to try on a maid costume, and when Tadano tries it on, Komi the closet creep gets excited to see it. Komi's mom arrives in the cafe and Komi's brother Shouko also comes with her. All the girls get their plot twisted in a bunch when they see him, and he immediately gets promoted to the god status. Feeling uncomfortable with all the attention, he leaves, and just then Hitomi arrives in the cafe. She sees Tadano in the maid costume and taking a picture of him, she instantly makes her exit. Tadano gets a break and Komi joins him, where she tells him that he looks cute in the costume. The maid cafe starts to get busier and Najimi asks Komi to talk a walk and come back inside. She takes a walk, and when she comes back, hordes of customers follow her in like dogs on a leash. Najimi starts to use weird marketing techniques like offering a walk or offering massages, bringing in bundles of money. But the teacher thrashes her good, due to which she stops. Najimi then takes Komi and Tadano for a walk around school, and they all soon enter a haunted house where Komi easily gets scared of everything. Afterwards, they join the public declarations event in which people shout out their secrets while standing on the roof. Yamai, who gets creepier and creepier day by day, shouts out that she loves Komi and asks her to go out with her. When Komi doesn't give a reply back, she calls her shy and backs away on her own. Najimi pushes Komi to the roof, telling her to advertise the maid cafe, and everyone waits for Komi to make an appearance. Komi steps forward in holy light and everybody shuts up so that they can hear Komi say something, but Komi only manages to say Maya instead of maid cafe. The most Delulu students ever think that Komi is trying to imitate a cat and become a cat maid, so they cheer her on even more to hype up the maid cafe. Tadano and Najimi then rush at Komi, who's about to faint due to her nervousness. Komi then wears cat ears and the other students drag Najimi away so that she can get thrashed on the teacher's recommendation. Tadano, being the mega simp, tells Komi that people are looking at her a lot because she is looking cute in the outfit, which makes Komi very embarrassed. One Mind and world-famous klutz Atori then join them both while they wander through the festival, and even participate in some events to enjoy themselves. The gang then watches a heavy metal bank performance where Tadano realizes that his heart is beating fast when he looks at Komi. The whole school gathers at the gymnasium, where it gets announced that the festival's winner is the maid cafe, a plot twist that anybody could see coming from 1,000 miles away, followed by an announcement that due to Najimi's weird activities, their reward has been cancelled. Komi tells Tadano that she had a lot of fun, and soon the school musical night begins where students start to dance together. Tadano realizes that Komi wants to dance as well, so he asks her to dance with him and she agrees. They both step in the spotlight, but Najimi joins them too, and they all start to dance together. Soon Yamai's group and the others joins Komi's group and the whole class dances and enjoys itself. The whole class goes to a karaoke for the after party, and they each select a song to sing. Najimi starts to sing first and almost gets thrown to the hell pits for his singing. As Komi's turn gets nearer, she starts to get more and more nervous. When her turn arrives, she manages a sound only and everybody cheers her on. The song then ends without Komi actually singing anything, and everybody whacks the machine for giving Komi a lousy rating. Tadano starts to sing, and as usual everybody ignores his existence, but then he sees Komi cheering for him, which makes him excited, and he sings the full song. Najimi then invites everybody to sing along, and they all sing together. Much later, Komi lists down all of her friends in a notebook, feeling that she has come far since the high school year started. Will Komi overcome her communication problems and be able to talk normally, or will she always have to rely on Tadano to save the day? Comment your thoughts below and let us know. Subscribe to the channel for more content.